This week on Case Studies with the Biz Doc, it's Disney Plus. I'm going to tell you how it all started with baseball, and then I'm going to take you through the history of the assembly of Hulu and how Mickey the Wizard knows how to play that Monopoly game in the streaming wars. Let's go history. Let's find out what it's all about this week. Disney Plus. I'm going to tell you where it started, which has something to do with baseball, and then we're going to go through the history. We're also going to do something sometimes you call two truths and a lie. I'm going to take you through two strategies and a reality. Strategy 1, Disney Plus. Strategy 2, Hulu. And a reality, what's really happening with cord cutting, AT&T, and cable and satellite. Let's dive in. The Disney Plus story starts with Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball Advanced Media was one of the most pioneering groups in the streaming and over-the-top wars. Baseball had invested millions of dollars in it. They turned an incredible idea into an absolute machine. You know, it was Major League Baseball that was doing all the over-the-top stuff for soccer. So soccer streaming in the United States, that was Major League Baseball. You had also college conferences turning to Major League Baseball Advanced Media. Well, Major League Baseball decided to spin it out. It was so successful, and they created a company called BAMTech, which is the streaming side spun out or placed into another company. It was owned by Major League Baseball until Disney invested, and they had about 25% of it initially, 75% Major League Baseball, and then Disney exercised an option or a next negotiation point, as it were, and they owned 75% of it. So suddenly the streaming engine that was owned by Major League Baseball is now owned by Disney. BAMTech is now part of Disney. Then in 2018, it would become Disney Streaming Services. That was where this wonderful technology that would become Disney Plus originated. And along the way, a guy named Michael Paul that had been at Amazon and then came over to be CEO of BAMTech and ultimately be CEO of Disney Plus was the guy that made it all happen. So let's take a look at the next step. There was an agreement that was announced where Netflix was not going to get the renewal on Disney, Lucas, and Marvel, and it was going to take effect in 2019. Now, that was announced like a year prior, more than a year prior. And everybody's like, oh, what's going to happen to Netflix? What's going to happen? Well, they've built a lot of original content and continue to contract movies and do a lot of things like that, and they continue to building up because they're still leading it, but they no longer have the Marvel, the Lucas, and the Disney content. All of that was going to come through Disney Plus. Well, that was a strategic move. And when it came time for launch day in 2019, that was in November, an amazing thing happened, followed by an even more amazing thing that was kind of a bummer. They basically had been pre-selling a bit, and they had 10 million subscribers sign up on day one. And what that did is it crippled things. A lot of the systems at Disney Plus weren't meant to handle that. They had a forecast going out 3-4 years that was hell and gone from thinking they'd have 10 million subscribers 24 hours after they pushed the launch button. Suffice to say, launch day not only launched a great product that everybody got behind and there was 10 million subscribers, it also launched Disney on an effort to put more strength and capacity into the back-end systems that did it. And they would need that because take a look at what happened. By the end of 2019, they were 26.5 million subscribers. By February, 28.6, April 50, and now we're in the COVID time. People are indoors, and what are they doing? They're watching stuff while pretending to be working from home. By April, they had 50 million subscribers. By June, 57.5, August, 60. And I'm pulling these, they're not random dates. These are dates when something was announced by Disney Plus. So we have something of an accurate source for the data. At least I hope so. August, they were up to 60 million, crossing that. September, they crossed 70 at 73.7. At the end of the year, they were 87, 88, 89, somewhere in that. And then just a little while ago, on March 9th, my mom's birthday, my sweet 84-year-old Biz Doc mom birthday, March 9th, they announced 100 million subscribers, and they hit the ball out of the park, and there is only one word for that, and that is damn! They went in A year and a month, basically, a year and 2 months, went from 0 to 100 million streaming subscribers for Disney+. It was a great product. They had solved all the capacity issues. There were people complaining that episodes were out of order. Hey, those episodes aren't in chronological order. Which one is which? They solved all that. It was a busy year. It was a busy COVID year, but they added the capacity, got through the launch and the hiccups there, and they are there leading the world. Now let's take a look at what else was going on there. There's something very interesting that happened with Hulu. Remember, right now you can see Disney+, Hulu with live TV, and ESPN Plus, and some combination. You can get packages together at a discounted price initially. Well, that was very, very smart. Let's find out why Hulu was in there. We know Disney owns ESPN Plus. You go to Disneyland, and right, you can go to California Adventure or places, and you've actually got the ESPN restaurant. Am I right, Paul?
That's right, Tom.
Down at Disney, yep. So we all know ESPN's part of it, but let's take a look at what most people didn't know was going on with Hulu. Hulu started way back here in 2015 as a joint venture. As a matter of fact, you know who would know something about this, Paul?
Who would know more about this, Tom?
I think Brooker would know something about this.
I think you might be right.
Why don't we ask her?
Step 1, 2007. Media people from News Corp, which is Fox, and NBC Universal form a joint venture, which is basically a business friendship created by lawyers. They also got $100 million investment from Providence Equity. Step 2, April 2009. Disney joins the party. Now Hulu is owned by Disney, Fox, NBC, Universal, and Providence. Along the way, Comcast buys NBC Universal. Step 3 is a big jump. But first, over the next 2 years, Hulu proves to be a success. In 2010, Hulu hit 1 billion streams per month. In 2011, Hulu says, we aren't selling and we aren't having an IPO. And in 2012, Providence Equity sells its part back to the other partners. I bet they wish they had it back. 2016, and Time Warner joins the party. Now Hulu is owned by Fox, Comcast, Time Warner, and Disney. Along the way, AT&T buys Time Warner. Now time for step 4. And a lot of things are about to happen. Spring 2019. Big things happen all at once. March 19th, Disney buys 20th Century Fox and also gets its share of Hulu. Now Hulu is owned by Disney, Comcast, and AT&T. And then 1 month later, AT&T sells its part back to Hulu for $1.4 billion. What are you thinking, AT&T? This is practically a case study. AT&T needs money, lots of money. 1, DirecTV is losing subscribers and money. We canceled it at our house. 2, AT&T is spending billions to build 5G networks, but they still can't get better service in my room. Now for step 5. One last move in 2019. The last part of our Monopoly games takes place when Disney promises to buy Comcast's part for at least $5.8 billion before the end of 2024. Ta-da! Disney owns 100% of Hulu. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how Mickey Mouse won the Monopoly game in the streaming video wars. By the way, we are an over-the-top household. The Biz Doc got us Hulu plus live TV, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus. Because DirecTV was crazy expensive for 5 TVs, and all of my favorite movies and shows disappeared from Netflix. Okay, back to the Biz Doc and the rest of the Disney Plus case study.
There you have it. That is how Disney ended up with 100% of Hulu. So now you've got the Hulu subscribers, the Disney Plus subscribers. It's all what we say, the House of Mouse, and they are driving. So let's take a look at some other things that were going on here. I talked a little bit about, and Brooker mentioned AT&T needing the money. Let me pick up on that point right here. Here's a fun fact. Let's call this the saga of the Death Star. And by the way, here's the old Williams F1 back when AT&T, there they are, used to support Formula One back then. Well, the saga of the Death Star. DirecTV is losing subscribers. And every so many years, you got to put up supporting satellites as the older satellites, wear out and their lifespan goes to an end, and it takes billions of dollars to put more satellites in orbit. So you get a lot of things going on there, and you're a facilities-based carrier. Well, right now, believe it or not, AT&T is the most indebted company in the United States that is not a bank. Let me say that again. They have more borrowings and more debt than any company in America except the banks themselves. So they're trying to go out and they're trying to build 5G. They're trying to put a universe, right? AT&T Uverse and things into your neighborhood. They're trying to offer the pipe because they're no longer the player they are on DirecTV. So they got to be the pipe, and they're doing that reasonably well, but it takes billions of dollars to put all that fiber in the ground because everyone is now hungry for bandwidth for all the over-the-top and internet-powered products and services that you have at home. So in other words, they go to the banks and say, hey, we got to do this. They say, I'm not giving you more debt. You already have too much debt. Here's what AT&T did. In February 2021, just about a month ago as we filmed this, they spun out DirecTV with a finance group called TPG. They will own 70%, TPG 30%, and now DirecTV is spun out. Why is that important? Because not owning it is what's key. It was spun out along with a lot of the indebtedness that was on it. Because if they own it, as long as they own it, they can't qualify for bigger loans. It's the same thing for you and me trying to buy a house, trying to buy a car. If you have too much credit card debt and you already have a car loan, then you can't get as big of a house because they won't loan you as much money. It's the same thing with a big, hairy B for billion in front of it that companies go through. So not owning AT&T, not owning DirecTV is key. Because if they don't own it, they say, now look at my financials. That other thing is over here. I do own part of that company, but it's not here. Well, the banks told them that they would only loan them 3.5 EBITDA. Now, for entrepreneurs, there's a great lesson in here because it's the same for you and me. You go to a bank and they say, what's your EBITDA? In other words, your profit before taxes and things. Well, about $100,000 for the year. Okay, well, I'll probably loan you $350,000. So in other words, they couldn't sell DirecTV to get the deal they want. So they took the deal they could get, spin it out. It's a huge markdown. The valuation of it is just a smattering of itself. I think it was only like $25 or $30 billion, just a shadow of its previous self. Y'all can check that number and leave me a comment if I'm off. But AT&T has got DirecTV out there with just a major loss compared to the investment, but they need to get it off the books so they can build 5G. And they can put in all the fiber that they want for you and me. So kind of references back. So it's kind of an interesting thing here that does have some parallels for you and me, even though it's this ginormous company. Now then, let's step back into the other side of this. Disney Plus is over the top. If you already were getting ESPN, that's over the top. All your music subscriptions is also over the top. Remember when Music Plus had like 30, 40, 50, 60 channels that were at the end of your cable subscription? You could go down there and just put on holiday music or hip hop or classic rock or country, whatever you're in the mood for, and it would be background music as you invite people over and just hang out. Well, that's gone, and now over-the-top things, we know the list. You have Apple Music, you've got Spotify, you've got a lot of great services are out there. We now get our music. That's over the top. Now all the TV is over the top too. We were just talking about the problems with DirecTV. Let's take a look at cord cutting. These are people that cut the cord for everything except the internet that comes into your house, which is not on the satellite dish. It's fiber, or it's Verizon Fios or something like that. Whether it's AT&T or Verizon, whoever it is, you're just paying for the fiber. Instead of $160 a month, you're probably paying $80 a month because you're no longer paying them for the programming. You're just doing this. You're getting your programming from other people. Cord cutting in the USA. 2017, there were 94 million pay TV homes in the United States, and there was 31 million that were not pay TV. Either they couldn't afford it or they didn't want it, but they were not there. Well, guess what happens? That's 17. Let's go 5 years later. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wait, 5 years is next year. This is just 4 years later. That 94 has become 79, which means you have got that many households have given up cable and satellite, are no longer paying for it. Do you think that's part of their problem? Yes. AT&T was losing millions of subscribers a year on DirecTV, and it's the same for other cable. They are turning to offer you just the internet side of it. So now, people with none of that, we're all the way up to 48 million households that do not have cable and do not have satellite. Then, over-the-top households, these are over-the-top subscriptions where a household or an individual has at least one over-the-top subscription. We're up to 196 million. So you can see the over-the-top revolution is there. Well, what was the one thing that you could get on cable that you couldn't always get, say from Netflix or from whatever it is that you wanted, Amazon Video or YouTube? Well, what you couldn't get initially was live TV. What was important? Live weather, live sports, live news. Those are the things you couldn't. Well, let's see. They're all available now. YouTube's got live TV. Hulu has with live TV, including local stations. Here in Dallas, Texas, I have Hulu plus live TV, as Brooker told you, at our house, and I get my 4 local stations. Well, take a look here. Hulu has 4 million live TV subscribers, YouTube 3, Sling, which is Dish Network, remember Dish competes with DirecTV, they have 2.5, AT&T Now, or, when you try to use it, sometimes it's simply called ATT No, and then Fubo. That's only 10 to 12 million people that are paying for live TV for over the top. Wait a minute, why is that? Well, it's because live sports, you probably pay for MLB.com, and you can not just get the Dodgers, which we love, you can get any baseball game. See what's happening? Suddenly live TV that brought you news and weather. I have the Weather Channel app on my phone, and here in Dallas, if there's a severe thunderstorm or a hail warning, our phones beep just like they do for Amber Alerts. You ever have that happen in the middle of the night, Paul?
All the time.
All the time. So guess what? I have live weather on my phone because guess what? My iPhone, the wireless carrier knows where I am and they know there's severe weather coming. I got the Weather Channel app. I get a notification on my phone. Maybe take cover. Maybe get your car out of the driveway. We get to know it. So now we've got live weather, news, and sports. Guess what? The news, you can go to Twitter and scan for your news. People are getting live news up to the minute just by going online and looking for it, so you don't have to sit and watch at 5 or 6 o'clock the evening news. So I would say that except for sports, live TV is really not that interesting, and the numbers back it up. It's not being bought the way 100 million people already have Disney Plus, and the way 204 million people already have Netflix. Just look at the streaming. Netflix, 2017, 110 to 139, 167, 204 million. Wow. Hulu, from 18 to 25 to 29 to 39. Boy, there's a nice jump for them, 11 million there. I wonder what caused that. Let's look in. Disney Plus, 26 million, 86 million, and 100 million on my mom's birthday, March 9th, as I explained. Take a look at what's happening here. When they offered Disney Plus with Hulu, look what they did. They actually helped Hulu. They had 3 million subscriber increase from 18 to 19, and during the COVID year package with Disney Plus, they got 11 million. So Disney Plus wasn't just driving Disney Plus's success, they're also driving the success of Hulu, which also tells you here, this is where the game is played. People want their favorite content. And Netflix has lost key content here that Disney has, but I would argue when you compare the $80-some a month that most people paid for cable, that would be the local cable plus internet maybe that was on that, basic internet, and maybe HBO or Showtime. If you maxed it out, you were quickly over $100. But you could get basic cable for $40 and basic internet with that on a cable modem. So you're around 80 to $100. That's where you were. Well, now you look at it now and you say, well, Disney Plus is, what is that, like $16 or something, Paul? Depending how you look at it, it's packaged. But you can see, you get people like us, we have Netflix, and we have the package Disney Plus, Hulu with live TV, and ESPN Plus. We also pay for MLB, and we also pay for the family plan on Apple Music. So when you add all that up, I'm paying less than I was for those 5 TVs in my house with DirecTV, a lot less. And I'm getting the streaming that I need for all the programming that's acceptable to me for my kids to watch. I have everything that I need, and I have internet access for my computers. So actually, I'm getting a better product at a lower price than I was just 3 years ago paying for 5 TVs on DirecTV. So when you look at it, at all this, what are some lessons that we can learn? Well, I already gave you a quick banking lesson here to show you that AT&T, when they go to the bank, they get the same questions you and I. It's just a more expensive lunch, and it starts with a B, not a T. Thousands for us, billions for them. And you see what's happened to streaming here? Well, there's one thing that I'd like to point out is there's some interesting lessons here. And the answer is cross-selling works. You see the way Disney owns both and they cross-sell, and you can see the numbers here? If you're in a position where you have a couple products that could cross-sell on each other, see if you can cross-sell without hurting your profits. Don't give them away as a bundle, but see if you can cross-sell. There's a very big cross-selling case study that's buried in here. Also, take a look what Brooker was talking about in that Hulu growth story. Disney was playing chess, not checkers. They were thinking several moves ahead, staying ahead of their competition. That's a lesson for you and me, even if we're not spending billions of dollars trying to assemble Hulu and maybe get all the green cards like in Monopoly, get the set so that we own that. Then we own Boardwalk, and now we're on that side of the board, and we are ready for anybody that would walk by. You can play that same game in your own business, and you need to. If your business keeps you up late at night, but you don't have time to strategically plan, that's bad. You need to find time so even with your small business, you're playing chess, not checkers when it comes to your competition. Lastly, there's a very interesting thing that's happened here. We used to all pay for cable because there'd be one cable provider that could come to your curb. Remember those days, Paul? You had one choice, or you could get Dish, or you could get DirecTV. There's your three choices, and that was basically it. And now the consumer has struck back because now it's like, ha, I can get the internet to my house, and I can get what I want when I want. And if I only want MLB, and I only want Netflix, that's all I get. If I only want MLB, and I only want Disney Plus, that's what I get. If I only want the Green Bay Packers, and so I get the Sunday ticket from NFL online and over the top, and then I get Disney Plus, then that's all I get. This is an amazing time for the democratization of new content and the freedom of choice for the consumer. Just give me a pipe. Don't constrain it. If I use more bandwidth than my neighbor, make it fair for me. Let me pay for it, but let me get what I want, when I want, from who I want, and I'm not backed into it. So this is an example where companies like the Death Star that gave you what was in the package and were hard to deal with, and we ended up on contracts. Remember those days? Well, guess what? Times have changed. So that's pretty much the Disney Plus story. It all started with baseball, which I love, and then they hit it out of the park with 100 million subscribers. As Vin Scully would say, in a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened, which was the famous call for the Gibson home run from Vin Scully. And that's how Disney Plus and the House of Mouse are killing it in the streaming wars.